Hello from Mindset Daily, wishing you a day full of health, peace, and happiness. Thank you for watching the Mindset Daily channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support us. Thank you so much.
Have you ever felt like some truths are too sacred to share? What if the dreams God gave you aren't meant for everyone? At least not yet. Could revealing them too soon actually delay the destiny you're meant to walk in? Of all the experiences we encounter in life, there are some moments, some revelations that are meant to remain between you and God. It's not about hiding. It's not about fear. It's about protecting what's holy. Divine secrets carry weight, and that weight isn't meant for just anyone to bear. When God chooses you, He sets you apart, not for recognition, not for applause, but for a path that demands discernment, maturity, and often silence. Sometimes, speaking too soon or to the wrong person can strip a revelation of its power. It can open the door to misunderstanding or, worse, allow others to use it against you. Throughout Scripture and history, God has moved in quiet, hidden ways until the appointed moment when His plan is ready to be revealed. Consider Joseph. God gave him dreams of greatness, clear, vivid visions of his future. But when he shared them with his brothers, their envy drove them to betrayal. What if Joseph had kept those dreams between him and God just a little longer? Would the path have been different? Perhaps. Still, in His wisdom, God used even that betrayal for good. But the principle remains: not everyone can handle what God has planted inside of you. Some people will misunderstand your calling. Some will oppose it, and some will try to shut it down before it even begins. That's why when God speaks to your heart, when He plants something deep in your spirit, it's more than inspiration. It's a calling. It's a sacred invitation to walk closely with Him in ways the world may never fully understand. And yes, there will be moments when you're tempted to explain yourself, to help others see what God has shown you. But be careful. The enemy doesn't always attack directly. Sometimes, all it takes is a distraction. Just one voice of doubt, one moment of oversharing to shake your foundation. That's why Jesus often withdrew from the crowds to be alone with the Father. Even He, the very Son of God, knew the value of guarding the sacred. There's a deep and often overlooked truth about the power of secrecy in the spiritual realm. When God begins shaping you, refining you, preparing you for what's ahead, He often does it in the hidden places. The most significant transformations happen not in front of a crowd, but in quiet, sacred moments when no one else is watching. Before David ever stood before Goliath with a sling and unmatched courage, he was alone in the fields, facing a lion and a bear. Before Moses became the deliverer of Israel, he wandered the wilderness for years, unseen, uncelebrated, and unknown by men, but fully known and molded by God. And before Jesus stepped into His public ministry, He spent 40 days in the desert, fasting, praying, confronting the enemy in silence. If even the Son of God did not rush His revelation, then why should we? Sometimes, even the people closest to you, friends, family, those you deeply trust, won't be able to comprehend what God is doing in your life. It's not because they're against you or mean you harm. It's simply because God hasn't shown them what He's revealed to you. That's why discernment is essential. You must learn to protect what's sacred. Think of a seed. It cannot survive if it's exposed too early to harsh conditions. In the same way, a vision shared prematurely can be crushed, misunderstood, or dismissed before it ever has the chance to grow. Timing matters deeply. There is a time to speak and a time to remain silent. A time to share and a time to hold back and treasure what's been entrusted to you. God's chosen ones understand this. They know that not every battle needs a trumpet. Not every blessing is meant for public display. Not every divine whisper is to be echoed in the streets. Some things are designed to flourish in quiet, watered in prayer, rooted in patience, and protected in obedience. You may be wondering, if God is for me, why should I care what others think or say? But here's the truth. It's not about fear. It's about wisdom. It's about honoring what's sacred by guarding it until it's strong enough to stand. Wisdom teaches us when to speak and when to remain silent. Even Jesus, in his perfect discernment, warned his disciples, "Do not cast your pearls before swine." That wasn't a judgmental statement. It was a profound reminder that not everyone can recognize the value of what is sacred. Would you ever hand your most prized treasure to someone who doesn't know its worth? Then why would you freely reveal the deeply personal things God has entrusted to you to those who cannot yet comprehend their significance? There is a divine timing for everything. A moment will come when God himself will bring forth what he's planted in you. He will reveal his purpose through your life in a way no one will be able to deny. But that moment belongs to him, not to your timeline, not to the pressure to be understood, and not to your desire for validation. Until then, you must protect the gifts he's given. Let them take root in the secret place. Let them be nurtured in the stillness of your prayers and strengthened in those quiet seasons that no one sees. Because when the appointed time comes, you won't have to explain yourself. You won't have to argue or defend what God has placed within you. His hand on your life will be undeniable. His power will speak louder than any words. And his perfect timing will make it clear to everyone that what's happening is divine, not manufactured. There comes a defining moment in every believer's walk with God when you realize not everyone will understand the path you're on. When he calls you, he sets you apart, not to isolate you, but to prepare you. That preparation is often invisible to others. It's a refining fire, a process that molds you into who you're called to become. And yet, the temptation will always be there. The desire to explain, to be understood, to seek approval from people who are never meant to validate your calling. But I urge you, guard your spiritual journey. Treat it as sacred. Understand that not everyone can see what you see, and not everyone is ready to believe what you believe. And that's okay. Even when Jesus walked the earth in full power and purity, he didn't go around trying to convince everyone. Jesus never felt the need to convince the Pharisees of who he was. He didn't waste his time debating with those who had already made up their minds to reject the truth. Instead, he stayed focused. He continued healing the broken, teaching the crowds, loving the unlovable, and doing the will of the Father. Some believed and followed him. Others turned away. But Jesus never chased after those who walked away. He never tried to make people understand what was spiritually discerned. He knew who sent him, and that was more than enough. And the same truth applies to you. If you are truly chosen, if you are sincerely walking in step with God, there will come times when even the people closest to your heart won't understand what he's doing in your life. They might question your choices, challenge your faith, or even ridicule the path you're on. Their words may sound logical. Their concerns may come from a place of love. But if you're not careful, their voices can distract you from God's voice. Their doubt can begin to seep in like a slow drip, planting seeds of confusion, causing you to second-guess what you once held with certainty. That's why discernment is critical. That's why you must fiercely protect the sacred work God is doing within you. Consider the story of Noah. God gave him a seemingly impossible command: to build an ark in the middle of dry land when the skies were clear and no one had seen a drop of rain. Can you imagine the mockery? The whispers? Noah, you've lost your mind. There's no flood coming. But Noah didn't waste time trying to explain or defend himself. He didn't plead with the crowd to understand. He simply obeyed, quietly, faithfully, steadily. And then the rain came. Those who mocked him realized too late that Noah had been walking with God the entire time. His obedience, not his explanations, spoke volumes. So when God begins to lift you, when he starts to reveal his purpose over your life, don't expect everyone to clap. Some will question your every move. Others may feel threatened by your faith. But you must learn to guard your heart. You must know when to share and when to keep things between you and God. Because sometimes the most powerful answer is your silence. Sometimes the greatest testimony is your obedience, not your explanation. When you carry the calling of God on your life, you cannot live for the approval of people. That's why Jesus often withdrew to spend time alone with the Father. He understood that the noise of the crowd, the opinions, the expectations, even the love of those closest to him, could become a distraction. Even his own disciples, though devoted, didn't always grasp what he was doing. Peter, with all his passion, once tried to stop Jesus from going to the cross. But Jesus rebuked him. Why? Because even well-meaning people can unintentionally stand in the way of God's plan. Some of you are facing that very battle right now. You've been pouring out your heart, trying to explain your faith journey to people who were never meant to understand it. You've been searching for encouragement in places that were never designed to nourish your spirit. You're waiting for confirmation from others, even though God has already spoken clearly to your heart. But the truth is, some people won't see it, not because they're against you, but because God didn't show it to them. Stop searching for validation where it was never promised. Stop expecting others to understand what only God revealed to you in the quiet of your soul. Yes, there will be moments when you feel isolated. There will be times when the path God leads you on looks so different that you'll begin to question if you've gone astray. Especially when the voices around you grow louder, offering doubt instead of direction. But let me remind you, your faith is not based on a vote. Your calling isn't up for debate. And the applause of man cannot confirm what was whispered to your spirit by God himself. If he has called you, then walk boldly. If he has planted the vision in your heart, then nurture it with trust. Keep moving forward, even when no one claps. Keep believing, even when no one else sees it. Because when the time is right, God will reveal his work in your life in a way no one can deny. You don't have to convince anyone. You don't have to defend your path. Just stay faithful, stay obedient, stay close to his voice. And when the fruit comes forth, when the harvest begins to show, it will speak louder than any explanation ever could. There is incredible power in walking silently but faithfully with God. And that kind of faith, steady, unwavering, unseen, moves mountains. There is something sacred about silence, about holding the things of God close to your heart until the right time. When the Lord plants a vision within you, when he whispers promises over your life, or when he gives you glimpses of the future he's preparing, you must tread carefully. Timing is everything. You need discernment, not just about what you share, but when and with whom you share it. Because the truth is, not everyone will understand. Not everyone will believe. And not everyone has the faith to embrace what God has spoken over your life. One of the most common mistakes people make is rushing to announce a revelation before it's ready. They receive a word from God, a dream, a glimpse of destiny, and in the excitement of that divine moment, they run to tell others. But the seed hasn't taken root yet. And when you reveal something too soon, you risk inviting resistance before the vision has even matured. When you speak too early, you open the door for doubt to creep in. You expose your promise to criticism. You give room for misunderstanding, and sometimes even envy, not always because others are malicious, but simply because they haven't seen what you've seen. They didn't hear what you heard in prayer. And without that spiritual context, your dream can be dismissed, doubted, or even destroyed before it has a chance to breathe. Think about Joseph. God gave him dreams, vivid, powerful dreams of greatness. Dreams where he would rise above, where leadership and purpose would rest on his shoulders. But in his youthful eagerness, he shared those dreams with his brothers. And instead of rejoicing with him, they turned against him. Instead of encouraging him, they plotted to destroy him. That one moment of premature sharing triggered a chain of betrayal, isolation, and suffering that would last for years. Was God's plan canceled? No. What God had spoken still came to pass. The promise was fulfilled in its time. But the road Joseph had to walk was far more painful because the vision was revealed before its appointed moment. And that is a lesson worth remembering. Some of you are carrying powerful visions, deep, divine callings that have yet to be fully revealed. Don't let your excitement rush you into exposure. Let your dream grow strong in the soil of silence, watered by prayer and guarded by wisdom. Some of you are still in the planting stage. The vision God gave you is just beginning to take root, yet you've let the wrong people step into your soil. You've opened the gate to voices that speak doubt, to opinions that don't align with faith, and now you're feeling the weight of discouragement that was never meant to be part of your journey. It's not that your dream has failed, it's just that you're exposing it before it's ready. There is great wisdom in staying silent. There is divine protection in allowing God to do His work in the quiet, away from public view. Think of a tree. When it's first planted, it doesn't produce fruit right away. Its roots grow deep underground, hidden from sight. The strength is being built where no one can see it. Only after that deep growth does the tree begin to rise, flourish, and eventually bloom. But if you force it to bear fruit before it's ready, you risk weakening or even destroying it. The same is true for the plans God has for your life. There's a process. There's a season of preparation that must come before the manifestation. And that season requires patience, faith, and complete trust in God's timing. Even Jesus recognized this divine rhythm. He healed the sick, cast out demons, performed miracles that shook the earth. And yet, time and again, He told people not to speak of what they had seen. Why? Because the moment of revelation matters. Because premature exposure can damage what God is still developing. Some things must unfold in alignment with heaven's timeline, not our human eagerness. If the Son of God knew when to speak and when to remain silent, how much more should we seek the same discernment? You might be carrying a dream that feels impossible. You may be believing for something no one in your family, your circle, or even your church has ever witnessed before. That's why the enemy is working overtime, sending voices of doubt, planting seeds of fear, trying to halt your steps before you ever take the first one. He wants you to second-guess your calling, to question your worth, to wonder if you're even qualified. He wants you to second-guess what you clearly heard from God. That's why it's so important to guard your vision. Not every word God whispers to your heart is meant to be echoed in a room full of opinions. What God has placed inside of you is sacred. It's not meant for casual conversation or public validation. It's not a topic for debate, nor is it something that requires others to approve. Until the time comes for it to be revealed, your calling is a covenant between you and God alone. There will be a moment, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but there will be a time when what God has been doing in secret will be made known. And when that day arrives, no one will be able to deny His hand on your life. The fruit of your obedience, the evidence of your faith, will speak louder than anything you could have said before. But until then, hold it close. Keep nurturing it with prayer. Keep feeding it with faith. Keep trusting in His perfect timing, because what He promised, He will surely fulfill. And when that moment comes, nothing and no one will be able to stop it. There are also seasons in life when the weight of your struggles feels too heavy to carry. When the battles you fight behind closed doors press against your heart so intensely that you begin to question if you have what it takes to endure. And in those moments, it's natural to want to reach out, to search for someone who might understand, who might speak life into your pain. But hear this, there are some struggles that were never meant to be shared with people. Not because you aren't loved, not because no one would care, but because there is a spiritual dimension to what you're facing that most people simply won't understand. Sometimes, the enemy doesn't need to destroy you in a dramatic way. All he needs is a crack, a small opening, a moment of vulnerability where your words give him access. You see, he listens. He waits. He watches for the moments when you unknowingly reveal your deepest fears, your private doubts, your most fragile insecurities. And often, it's through your very own speech that you expose what should have remained protected. When you share your private battles with the wrong people, you risk giving the enemy an open invitation into your most vulnerable places. Not everyone who listens is truly listening to help you. Some listen only to twist your pain for their own purposes. Others hear your words without any real understanding, offering shallow responses that leave you feeling even more isolated than before. And some will simply walk away, not knowing the weight of what you've just shared, leaving behind silence heavier than the struggle itself. Think about Samson. He was a man handpicked by God, uniquely anointed with supernatural strength, called for a divine mission. But his downfall wasn't just his weakness. It was who he chose to share it with. His vulnerability wasn't his mistake. His mistake was placing that vulnerability in the hands of someone who had no intention of protecting it. Delilah wasn't there to heal him. She was there to betray him. And with his own words, Samson gave her the very weapon that would be used against him. What if he had taken that weakness to God instead? What if he had guarded that secret and allowed the Lord to deal with his brokenness in private? How different could his ending have been? Some of you are in the middle of silent wars. You're wrestling with fears, addictions, thoughts you can't seem to escape, battles no one else can see. And the temptation is strong to find someone, anyone, who will listen, to pour it all out in the hope that maybe, just maybe, they'll offer a word that will make the pain go away. But pause for a moment and ask yourself, have you brought this to God first? Have you sat quietly in his presence and wept like Jesus did in the garden? Have you gone to the only one who has the power to truly heal, truly strengthen, and truly restore what feels broken inside you? There's a reason Jesus didn't take the crowd with him to the garden. There's a reason why he knelt alone, why he groaned and cried out in private before enduring the weight of the cross. Because some battles, especially the ones that shape your purpose, are too sacred to be fought in public. Some struggles are meant to be carried into the presence of God alone, where they are met not with judgment, but with grace. There are some burdens too sacred, too heavy, to be laid bare before those who were never meant to carry them. Even Peter, the bold disciple who walked on water, the one who declared he would never leave Jesus, couldn't fully comprehend what Jesus was about to endure. So what did Jesus do? He took his sorrow to the Father in solitude, because he knew that only God could supply the strength required for the weight of his calling. And that's where your strength is found too. Not in revealing your deepest wounds to the world, not in seeking validation or comfort from others, but in surrendering those silent battles to God, the only one who sees it all, knows it all, and can handle it all. When you try to carry it alone, when you turn to people expecting them to fix what only heaven can heal, you'll always fall short. People may mean well. They can listen. They can offer kind words, but they're still limited. They cannot restore what's been broken deep within your spirit. They cannot break chains forged in the unseen realms. Only God can do that. Maybe you feel desperate to be understood. Maybe you're longing for someone to simply get it. But the truth is, God already does. He knows every silent cry, every anxious thought, every ache you haven't even put into words. He knows the weight of your sorrow because he crafted your soul. And when you place that pain in his hands, when you surrender your weakness in exchange for his strength, something powerful happens. He lifts you, not just physically, but spiritually, in a way that no human ever could. That's why you must guard your heart. Choose your words carefully. Be wise about who you allow into your inner world. And know this. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is remain silent, not out of fear, but out of trust. Because battles are not won through endless explanations. They're won through prayer, through surrender, through unwavering faith that God is working behind the scenes, even when no one else notices. And when the breakthrough comes, when chains fall, when healing rises, when peace floods your soul, it will speak volumes. It will become a testimony far louder and more impactful than anything you could have ever tried to explain. Because there are moments when God places something in your heart that is meant only for you and him until the time is right. When God gives you a promise, a calling, a quiet but undeniable sense that he's leading you towards something greater, there's often an urge to share it. You want to let others in, to express the fire that's burning inside you. But let me tell you this, and hear it clearly. There's some things that are meant to remain solely between you and God. Not out of fear, not because you distrust the people around you, but because divine revelation carries weight, and with that weight comes great responsibility. Not everyone is prepared or meant to walk that road beside you. When God speaks into your life, it's deeply personal. It's sacred. Often, it's something he plants within the soil of your soul long before anyone else ever sees the bloom. And in those early stages, when the vision is still fragile, when the calling is just beginning to take form, it's vulnerable. It's like a seed, not yet ready for the storm. That's why you must guard it with discernment. That's why you must be cautious about who you allow to speak into that sacred space. Because sometimes, all it takes is a careless comment from the wrong voice at the wrong moment. And suddenly, you're doubting what you were once certain about. Words have power. The wrong ones can uproot what God has only just begun to grow. Think about Mary, the mother of Jesus. When the angel appeared and told her she would bear the Son of God, she didn't rush to post it or shout it from the rooftops. She didn't go looking for public approval. The scriptures say she treasured these things in her heart. She held the promise quietly, nurtured it with trust, and let God unfold his plan in his perfect timing. Some of you are in that very place right now. You're carrying a word, a vision, a dream that no one else sees. And it's tempting to explain yourself, to make others understand, to defend what you know God whispered to your spirit. Especially when people dismiss you, mock the idea, or tell you it's impossible. But don't let impatience push you to expose what God has asked you to protect. The promise he gave you is real. It is growing. And in the right time, it will bear fruit for all to see, without you ever having to prove a thing. We often feel an urge to seek validation, to tell someone what God is doing behind the scenes in our lives. But let me remind you of this powerful truth. When God gives you a promise, it doesn't require human approval to be fulfilled. It doesn't need applause, explanation, or confirmation. All it requires is your unwavering faith. That promise carries divine authority, and God's word alone is enough to bring it to life. There's a real danger in speaking too soon. When you reveal what God is doing in your heart before the right time, you open the door to resistance that wasn't meant for your current season. You risk exposing your faith to unnecessary doubt. You allow the voices of others to grow louder than the voice of the one who called you. And suddenly, what once felt so clear becomes clouded. You find yourself second-guessing what you once believed with certainty, hesitating where you once moved boldly, and asking yourself, did I really hear God correctly? Think about Abraham. He was promised that he would become the father of many nations. But that promise wasn't fulfilled overnight. It took years, years of silence, of waiting, of believing without seeing. There were no signs, no confirmation in the natural, just a quiet, persistent trust in God. Imagine how difficult it would have been if he spent every day trying to convince people that he would one day have a son, while the years dragged on with no visible change. The doubt and discouragement of others could have easily shaken his faith. But Abraham held on. He didn't let outside voices drown out the one that truly mattered. And in the perfect time, God delivered exactly what he had promised. Some things are meant to remain hidden in the secret place, nurtured in prayer, developed in stillness, and protected by quiet trust. They're like seeds planted deep beneath the surface, taking root before they're ready to bloom. God knows when the time is right, and when he begins to unveil what he has placed inside of you, when his purpose starts to unfold, when his promise finally breaks through the surface, it will be so clear, so powerful, that no one will be able to deny it. There will be no need for debate. No justification required. What God reveals will speak for itself. And it will speak louder than any words ever could. Those who once doubted you, those who questioned your path, who couldn't see what you saw, will eventually witness the truth unfold. And in that moment, they will have no choice but to acknowledge that it was God's hand guiding you all along. That's why you must walk in wisdom. Be cautious. Be discerning. You don't have to prove yourself to anyone. You don't need to explain or justify what God has spoken over your life. His word stands firm. His promise will be fulfilled. And when the appointed time comes, it will be undeniable. The world will see what God has done in you, and his glory will shine in such a way that no one will be able to deny it. There's a divine reason God often chooses to work in silence behind the scenes. The most powerful moves of God usually begin away from the spotlight, in quiet places where the world isn't watching. It's in that sacred silence that God begins to mold you, refine you, and prepare you for the calling He's placed on your life. And as He does that deep inner work, He may show you things meant only for your eyes. Not for social media, not for public discussion, and definitely not for validation from others. These revelations are personal, intimate, and entrusted to you alone. If you've been chosen, if you're truly walking with God, then you must learn the importance of spiritual discretion. Not everything needs to be spoken. The enemy is always lurking, always listening, looking for cracks in your armor, searching for just one word he can twist, one detail he can use to delay what God is doing. Though he cannot stop God's plan, he can certainly try to hinder it. His strategy is subtle. Plant confusion, stir doubt, create noise that distracts you from your mission. And how does he often do that? Through the very words you speak. He manipulates what you reveal. He uses your own voice to invite spiritual interference. Sometimes, he even works through people closest to you. Not necessarily because they mean harm, but because they don't understand the depth of your calling. Their doubts, their fears, their small vision can unknowingly discourage you and slow you down. Even Jesus understood this. He carried the full weight of his divine mission, yet he didn't share every detail with everyone. Why? Because not everyone is meant to carry what God has given to you. There are truths too sacred to be scattered among those who aren't ready to receive them. Jesus revealed certain truths only to his disciples. Some teachings he reserved for private moments, and others he kept entirely between himself and the Father. Why? Because timing matters. Because true wisdom understands that there's a right time to speak and a right time to stay silent. Some of you listening right now have been carrying a deep frustration. You felt misunderstood, like those around you just can't grasp what God is doing in your life. You've tried to explain it, maybe even pleaded for someone to see what you see, to believe in what you know God placed within you. But instead of support, you've faced out. Instead of encouragement, you've been met with criticism. Instead of faith, you've been surrounded by fear. And now, quietly, you find yourself questioning, did I really hear from God? Did he truly call me to this? Did I misinterpret the promise he gave me? But the issue was never with the promise. The promise is still alive. The problem is that it was revealed too soon, before its roots had a chance to grow deep, before your faith had time to mature, before the soil was ready. When God gives you a vision, when he whispers a direction into your spirit that you know came from him, your first reaction shouldn't be to run and tell everyone. Your first response should be to fall on your knees and go to him in prayer. Ask for clarity. Ask for wisdom. Ask for the strength to carry what he's entrusted to you without needing public approval or external validation. Because when a vision is truly from God, it doesn't need to be broadcast. It needs to be nurtured. And in the secret place of prayer, in the quiet moments of obedience, God will begin to prepare the ground for its fulfillment. He's not just preparing the promise. He's preparing you to carry it. That's why discernment is so critical. Sometimes, the most powerful act of faith is asking, Lord, is this something I'm supposed to share? Or is this something I'm meant to guard in silence? Because the truth is, some battles are lost before they ever begin, simply because they were spoken into the wrong ears. Take Nehemiah as an example. When God gave him the vision to rebuild the broken walls of Jerusalem, he didn't rush to make a public announcement. He didn't rally a crowd or seek immediate validation. Instead, he moved with quiet intention. He inspected the ruins under the cover of darkness. He took his time to understand the situation, to plan, and to align his steps with God's direction. Only when the timing was right, when the foundation was solid, did he reveal what God had placed in his heart. And because Nehemiah chose wisdom over haste, because he exercised patience instead of pride, he was able to complete the mission without letting opposition derail his purpose. That same principle still holds true for you today. Some of you are feeling overwhelmed right now. Not because the promise has changed, but because you've allowed too many voices into what should have remained sacred. You've let outside opinions shape your beliefs. You've let fear and uncertainty creep in, all because you shared something that was still in its forming stage. But hear this clearly. What God has spoken over your life is still true. His promise has not expired. His calling is not void. It's still alive. It's just waiting for you to return to the place where it first began. The secret place of prayer, trust, and surrender. You need to close your ears to the voices of doubt and open your heart once more to the quiet whisper of God. Remember, not every step must be broadcast. Not every promise needs to be defended. When God has completed the work He's doing in you, there will be no need for explanation. The results will speak louder than anything you could say. The transformation will be visible. The fruit will be undeniable. Those who once doubted you will witness the truth. Those who questioned your journey will begin to understand. And even those who try to stand in your way will realize that when God ordains something, no one, not even the strongest opposition, can stop it. So stay wise. Stay discerning. Guard the sacred seed God has planted within you. Water it with prayer. Strengthen it with faith. And when the time is right, let God be the one to unveil it. His way, in His perfect timing. Wishing you strength, peace, and unshakable faith. May your journey be filled with purpose. And don't forget to subscribe to Mindset Daily for more inspiration, truth, and encouragement. Stay blessed.